Hello, Seafood Reader here. Welcome to my classroom. I've actually been teaching in this very spot for the past 15 years, 4 nights a week, sometimes 6 nights a week. I always take Sunday off. So today we're going to talk about the Soos, the basic building blocks of Kung Fu Sansu. There's 45 Soos. They're also known as the basic 45s. I call them Soos, but you will also hear me slip up and say basic 45 a lot. There are several versions of the basic 45s, but one thing about them is they are all the same. We are all different cooks. We all might have learned them different, and we may teach them a little differently than another person, but it would be visibly evident that, hey, that's basic 45 number 5 if you see it. You'll know what it is when you see it. Some of the purest ones are done by Master Ken Weiss, I think is his last name. He actually put some out on YouTube lately, and he trained under Jimmy Woo, so you know they're fresh when they come from there. The ones that I learned from my teacher, Master Ted Sias, are also very, very close to what would have been learned at the El Monte Studio in California back in the day of Jimmy H. Woo. I never met Jimmy H. Woo, I'm too young. First time I heard about the Soos, I found this book by Master Ron Gatewood, and it's called The Basic 45 Lessons of Kung Fu Sansu. Really good book. I started reading it, I really liked it. The first school I was in, the teacher understandably didn't like seeing me practice what I was learning in this book because I didn't learn it from him, and it was a Kung Fu Sansu school. Later, I started buying the manuals offline. Here's all 5. The Soos are in this one. And the very first fighting lesson I came to was exactly the same first lesson in this book, and my brain kind of had a aha moment. Oh, there's something to this. And so they're very similar. They're the same. Actually, these two are exactly the same. At the same time, online, I found Master Bill Holsley's versions. They're all typed up, and I think I got Frank Woosley's here, handwritten, typed written on notebook paper. 45 Soos. When I met Master Ted and started training under him, I got his version. And there's several versions out there. I was also studying under Master Mark Colby. Respect Master Mark Colby from my early days of learning the Soos. He had a DVD program that you could get 2 DVDs a month for like 60 bucks. And I learned a lot about the Soos from him. And there's also, I also have Jack Serra's video version. He's got a 2-disc set of the Soos. They're the way he remembered them. Master Bill Holsley, like I said, has a disc set of them. One of his masters, I think she's a master on him, Rhonda Cox, has a book much like mine. It's modern, it's contemporary, and it's her version of them. They're all the same lessons. The basic 45s, or Soos as I like to call them because that's what Ted called them. The Soos are building blocks of Kung Fu Sansu. So in my book, I have the Soos, and we only do Soos 1 through 24 because they get a little repetitive, and 20 is enough. I do 24 because I like, 21, 22, 23, 24 are some of my favorite ones. So I do 1 through 24, and you learn them at each level. Like my white belts learn 1 through 10, yellow belts 11 through 20, and so on until we get all through 24. So one of the best things I found on the Soos, basic 45s, is AmericanSansu.net had the basic 45 plus 6. And I started studying those, and I actually printed these out, and I put them by my punching bag in my garage, and so I could easily reference them and learn them. And I do make my students learn these. They need to know the targets, what strike to use, and it's kind of a grading system. It makes our art a little more fun when you have standards that you have to actually know exactly what it says in the book. You have to be able to do it, and you have to know it. If I question you on it, you have to know it, because that's how I learned them, and I like learning like that. It's fun for me to learn that way. So I make my students do that too. The basic 45 plus 6. Some smart person, I don't know who did, thank you, whoever did it, took an analysis of all these different versions of these lessons, and majority wins. If 3 people said it was a chop to the neck and 1 person said it's a hammer fist to the neck, he would say it's probably a chop to the neck. This guy wrote hammer. Maybe he likes to hammer. Maybe that's how he remembered it. I don't know. But most people said chop to the neck, and he did that for every single strike. Like if it said, if 5 people said it's a strike to the liver and 1 person said it's a strike to the spleen, he goes, it's probably to the liver. Oh, if you hit the liver, it makes more sense because it makes the body bend this way. So somebody did that analysis, and that's the ones I chose to use because somebody went through the trouble of doing it. And the plus 6 would be the ones like Master Ted has in his book, he's got a few random ones in here that I've never seen in my life. And like my number 4 and Master Ted's number 4 are completely different lessons. They're not even anywhere close. But 6 other masters, or some other masters wrote them down that way too. And so that guy who did the analysis said, you know what, these are really good. Jimmy must have taught them because these guys were there and they wrote them down this way. Maybe that night Jimmy taught it different. Who knows? So we've got 6 extra ones. Not that we need them, like I said, 24 is enough. So you can learn Kung Fu Sansu with these lessons. These are the building blocks of Kung Fu Sansu. I actually, when I started learning these, I opened my own school and I was still going through this book, these 2 books, those 2. And that was before I found the basic 45 plus 6. And anyways, I raised my first group of black belts with the basic 45s. And then I went back to Master Ted's method of just kind of bringing in 3 lessons a week and work on a form a month. And the lessons were always random, and I just picked and chose from all these manuals. I could pick and choose what lessons I wanted, and I did that, raised another group of black belts. And then I realized the first group of black belts had a better foundation. And I've been teaching now for 15 years, pretty much 4 nights a week, every week in this building. I've been teaching, and what I've learned is the basic 45s are essential for a strong foundation in Kung Fu Sansu. Don't look at them as real fights. They are partner drills. One partner will be working on striking, and the other partner is working on reactions. It's not choreography. It's, you know, if you get hit in the liver, how it makes you feel. You know, if you get hit in the stomach, how it makes you move back. You get hit in the groin, it makes you bend over. And so you kind of work with each other, and you go through the steps of the art is what you do. It teaches you how your hands fit. It teaches you targets. It's literally like doing forms. It should be done like doing forms with a partner, right? Application. And believe me, on all these Soos, Jimmy was very smart when he gave these to the Americans, because he knew Americans didn't want to learn forms at that time. They wanted the action. Every single one of these strikes is brutal, and it is like, it's one of these strikes would work. One of them would. But always the first one, that's a fight in it right there. If you land that first strike, that fight's over. If you land it, right? You got to land it first. But any of these can be taken out of context and used in their own system. The other really important thing I like to say about Soos is they're all based off of sword fighting, and you'll notice there's a lot of sword motions in there with the strikes, and I think that's really cool. Join me on Patreon, or come to my classes and learn them. But join me on Patreon. I have them all on there in a database, and I'm going through the process of teaching them live to the camera like I'm talking to you now. And right now I have 1 through 10 done already, and that's enough. 1 through 10 is enough for 6 months of study. I mean, believe me, that's how my white belts learn 1 through 10, and it takes them 6 months to learn them all. Because you're also learning forms and stances and all the other stuff too. So thanks for listening. So if you want to go get a copy of my book, because it's probably the best Sansu book out there, go get a copy of my book. Really. I'm not being full of myself. Not at all. Not standing in my studio talking to a camera alone.